Support for this podcast comes from St. Alphonsus Orthopedic and Sports Medicine Clinics, with physicians, physical therapists, and trainers who treat sports and performance-related injuries, with locations across the valley. More information on services and locations at stalphonsus.org/stayactive.
The Senate has eliminated public media funding, money that helped us reach rural Idaho with wildfire warnings and critical emergency alerts. Without it, voices may go silent in places that need us most. And it's not just Idaho. Our regional partnership through the Mountain West News Bureau is also at risk. We're the front line of trusted information in the West, and we're depending on you to keep it going. Donate now at boisestatepublicradio.org. There's no time to wait.
This is The Connector on your Monday morning, July 21st. Thanks for listening. I'm Troy Oppie. This morning, millions of dollars unfrozen for after-school programs in Idaho. Testing and prevention for the invasive quagga mussels continues, but there isn't a whole lot to know just yet. Doctors in Idaho cannot be prosecuted for referring patients to out-of-state abortion care and clawing back management of grizzly bear populations in the West. Those stories and more this morning on The Connector, Idaho Daily News from Boise State Public Radio News. The Idaho State Board of Education will not have to cover nearly $3 million in frozen federal grants for after-school programs. As James Dawson reports, federal officials say they're releasing the funds this week.
Earlier this month, the Trump administration held back nearly $7 billion in grants for migrant students, teacher training, and after-school programs, saying they were reviewing the funding. The news had after-school programs across the country and in Idaho scrambling to make up the difference. That's before state officials said they had found some extra cash to keep operations going through December. On Friday afternoon, the U.S. Department of Education sent a letter to states saying they would fully fund the initiative beginning Monday. The letter says officials have not yet decided the fate of the migrant education or teacher training grants. Those outstanding funds for Idaho total more than $26 million. James Dawson, Boise State Public Radio News.
Idaho Attorney General Raul Labrador and two county prosecuting attorneys have agreed not to prosecute some Idaho doctors for referring patients out of state for abortion care. The Idaho Capital Sun reports that agreement was published last week. It concludes a federal court case challenging the AG's authority to bring charges against medical practitioners for such actions. The agreement includes Planned Parenthood and two individual doctors who sued over an opinion Labrador shared in 2023, which he later recalled. In a statement to the Capital Sun, Labrador says the agreement affirms what his office already argued in court, that the AG lacks the authority to prosecute referrals for out-of-state abortion services. The U.S. House Committee on Natural Resources last week advanced a proposal to override a Biden-era Fish and Wildlife Service decision that prevented the delisting of the Yellowstone grizzly bear population. The service then had protected all regional populations as one unit over the objections of Montana, Wyoming, and Idaho, which all want local control of grizzly populations. The Daily Montanan reports officials estimate nearly 2,400 grizzlies live in those states, plus in a portion of Washington. The most recent bill to delist is co-sponsored by Idaho Republican Russ Fulcher. The U.S. Supreme Court is being asked to weigh in on the issue of corner crossing. That's the act of stepping over private land to access parcels of public land. A Wyoming landowner petitioned the court last week to make corner crossing illegal, arguing that it's trespassing. That comes after a federal court ruled earlier this year that the act is legal in Wyoming, Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, and other states. That's as long as recreationists do not physically touch private land. They can use strategies like jumping across corners or using ladders. Advocates say the decision opened millions of acres of landlocked public land. The Supreme Court could decide in early fall whether they'll hear the case. Testing and prevention for invasive quagga mussels continues across Idaho, but certainly focused on the Snake River in and around Twin Falls. That's where quagga mussel larvae was found in 2023. State officials have treated that area of the river twice with pesticide treatments and also last year started using tests for DNA. State Department of Agriculture Director Chanel Tewalt says that testing can show non-viable quagga mussel DNA, like some that was part of a vessel but rendered non-viable in a hot wash decontamination.
It will tell you when there's smoke, but not necessarily if there's fire. So we've been sampling all over the Mid-Snake, upriver, downriver, in the Panhandle, all over the place like we do. We have not found any presence of villagers.
It's just one tool being used to try to fight the invasive mussels. Tewalt says they aren't hanging their hat on negative test results right now because it's too soon to know if the treatments and prevention measures have continued to work. When the water warms up next month into September is when any undiscovered larvae would start reproducing. Pope Leo XIV has appointed a new bishop for Catholics living in eastern and central Oregon. From Oregon Public Broadcasting, Joni Auden-Land has more.
Father Thomas Hennon still remembers getting the call that he would become bishop of the Diocese of Baker in rural Oregon.
Probably it was a 3-minute conversation, but because it's so life-changing, it felt like much longer than that.
At 47 years old, he will be the youngest bishop to lead a diocese in the U.S. His entire career as a priest has been spent in Davenport, Iowa, where he grew up as the youngest of 11 children. The Diocese of Baker covers all parts of Oregon east of the Cascades. It's home to a small Catholic population of around 35,000 people. Hennon says he looks forward to meeting parishioners and attending to their spiritual needs. His ordination as bishop will take place on September 18th in Bend. I'm Joni Auden-Land reporting.
That story shared with us by Oregon Public Broadcasting. On the fire watch, the nearly 9,000-acre grass fire sparked Saturday by a car fire on Interstate 84 between Boise and Mountain Home was contained around 1 a.m. Sunday. Officials say one outbuilding was burned. The Bureau of Land Management says the fire is contained and continued to patrol for hotspots, but as of Sunday evening did not have an estimate of when the fire would be considered under control. In western Cassia County, a wildfire dubbed the Buckhorn Fire sparked Saturday afternoon about 12 miles south of Murtaugh and was contained at about 350 acres by midday Sunday. 2 lightning-caused fires in the Crassel Ranger District of the Payette National Forest, that's in the Frank Church Wilderness, continue to burn. Forest Service crews have implemented structure protection where necessary with minimal personnel on the Big Bear and Rush fires. Road closures in those areas are in place due to fire conditions. I'll wrap up the Connector with a plea this morning. The rescission bill passed by Congress and signed by President Trump last week cut $600,000 from the Boise State Public Radio budget starting in November. That money had been already approved by Congress just 4 months ago. Now it blows a hole of 1/5 of our annual budget. We're hoping our listeners will help fill that gap. So many of you have been so generous already. If you want to help, the time is right now. Check our website, boisestatepublicradio.org, to make that gift. And thanks so much. Your support now means we can continue to do what we do into the future. Our news director is Sasha Woodruff. Our digital strategy manager is Lacey Daly. Our general manager is Tom Michael. I'm Troy Oppie. I'll catch you again tomorrow morning.
These days, there's so much news, it can be hard to keep up with what it all means for you, your family, and your community. The Consider This podcast from NPR features our award-winning journalism. 6 days a week, we bring you a deep dive on a news story and provide the context and analysis that helps you make sense of the news. We get behind the headlines. We get to the truth. Listen to the Consider This podcast from NPR.